What's up, guys? Just thought I'd make a video talking about some problems I ran into when installing the Blox intake manifold. You're gonna have similar problems if you go with the skunk2 because they look identical. I think they're just different brand names, but the manifold is like, if you compare them, they're pretty much exactly the same. So first thing that I ran into, this is a 96 LS motor from Acura Integra. So I was using the original manifold, obviously, with the P75 throttle cable bracket. And the top holes right there are the original mounting holes. As you can see, I had to drill my own holes that are lower so that this whole bracket can get pushed that way, away from the sensor right there, the intake air temperature sensor. So yeah, you might want to consider either getting the correct bracket or modifying, because you're going to run into that problem otherwise. Another thing is the evap purge solenoid on the stock manifold. It sits right here. It has a hole cut out, and the solenoid sits right in there. So these aftermarket manifolds don't have that port for that solenoid. So what you're gonna have to do is figure out a mounting location for it. Right now I just kind of zip tied it between these brake lines and the brake booster nipple right there. So I got a zip tie there, zip tie there. This right here is where it used to go into the manifold up on top. So this has to get air from the manifold. So what I did is I just routed a hose from there, and then there's this little nipple on the back of these manifolds, which I guess some guys will just cap it off, but since I needed, to connect that to the manifold, I figured I might as well just use it there. Another thing you could do is tee off of the brake booster vacuum line right here. You can get a T-fitting. From that T-fitting, you can connect it to the solenoid. That works too, but I didn't want to go buy that without trying this first and see if this works. And so far it's worked just fine. I have this kind of smaller hose here because this is a small nipple, and then the nipple on the solenoid is a little bit bigger, so I just use this as a little reducing hose, if you will. So I got the big hose going there, and then this little hose going in there, and that grabs onto this small nipple right here really good. So that's another issue. So yeah, originally this goes into the intake manifold. This cable gets routed to the canister, charcoal canister. See if you can see that right there. Well, let me go on this side. Okay, there's my charcoal canister, and this is gonna tie in to the top nipple on the canister right here, because there's two, they're stacked. There's one on top, one on the bottom. See, you're gonna want to connect the evap purge solenoid to the top nipple, and then I did the same thing where I used a larger hose with a smaller hose combined. It's like so hard to see. See, you guys see that right there? There's a small hose, because these nipples are small on the charcoal canister. Got a small hose going into a larger hose, and then that larger hose goes all the way to the other side. You guys see that? Go on this side. And then this is where it connects. Right here. This is the other end of that hose. And then obviously the electrical harness gets plugged in to its usual spot. So that's one way to tap that in with these new intake manifolds. And then I went ahead and got a thermal gasket. You are gonna have to get longer studs or find some longer bolts, because the stock bolts are not long enough. You're not gonna have enough threads to bolt everything down. You might get away with it if you use a regular gasket, but you know, since you're already there, you might as well, this is my opinion, you might as well just upgrade to a thermal gasket. It's gonna keep the intake cooler, and you can also reuse it. You don't have to keep buying gaskets every time you change something here. You can go ahead and keep reusing that same gasket. So it's a good investment for the long run. And then yeah, fuel pressure regulator hose just goes into this nipple right here. PCV hose directly into here. I'm just gonna go over all these hoses because it was kind of a pain in the ass to find any information on this. Like, people will just talk about a specific part and they'll ignore everything, or they'll take pictures that are way too zoomed in and you can't even tell what's going on. So this hose right here coming out of the valve cover goes over here, goes into your air intake. The IAC valve on the back has a couple coolant hoses going to it as well. So those come from the water neck, from the coolant port right here. See that smaller hose in the back? Put my hand on it right here. I don't know if you guys can see this hose right here where my finger is. I'm touching the cable clamp, the hose clamp, but it's gonna be that hose right there. Let me just use this so I can point a little bit better. This hose right here, back there, that comes this way, goes up and over, goes up here, turns, goes all the way back here, back here, and then it goes into the throttle body. Right there. So that's in, and then the out nipple. It's like kind of hard to see. Should have done all this before I put everything back together so you guys could get a better idea, but that's the out. And that wraps around. See that? Wraps around, goes back up into the idle air control valve. Some guys will bypass that to keep the throttle body cooler. So they'll just run a hose, again starting from here. They'll just run a hose all the way around. They'll bypass the throttle body and they'll just go ahead and connect the end of that hose back here to the idle air control valve. And the reason people do that is to keep the throttle body cool, because I guess if you got the coolant circulating through there, ironically, instead of cooling it off, you're more than likely warming it up. And you know, cold air is always good for making more power, better combustion and whatnot. Cold air is always good. So that's the IAC valve hoses. There are two hoses back here, so you want to make sure the hose closest to the passenger side is the one that taps into this water neck that I showed you earlier. The hose closer to the driver's side goes down. It's like so hard to see, but it's gonna go down, and it ties into the back of the actual engine block. That's gonna go down, it goes to the engine block. It has a nipple on the back of I believe it's part of the crankcase. It might be part of the cylinder head, I kind of forgot, because it's hard to see now. I wanna say it's on the crankcase, but you'll see that nipple there. It's like right above the oil filter. So there's two hoses back there. see. Obviously, you want to reconnect your fuel line, right? I'm just kind of going over everything. I know sometimes we take things apart, forget to see how everything was connected. It's always good to see what a running setup looks like so you can compare how that looks compared to your setup. So fuel filter coming out through there, goes down, connects here to the fuel rail. Got all my injectors, fuel pressure regulator. Again, that small hose goes to the manifold. Return line goes down. It's gonna be down there by coming out of the firewall, your return line. You're gonna need a coupling probably, unless you have a Type R intake or an aftermarket intake that's big enough to actually fit over this larger throttle body. So I had to take an old Greddy coupling. I had to cut it so that I can basically have this air intake pushed up, butted up right against the throttle body, because otherwise, if it's too far out that way, you're gonna put a lot of stress on this nipple right here. And I actually did kind of damage that. You can see right there. Gonna have to fix that. That was because initially I was trying different setups, and a lot of them were just basically pushing the intake away from the manifold, and that was causing a lot of stress on this hose right here, which is supposed to go into the intake tubing right there. So unfortunately, I did kind of crack that. I'll go back and fix it. What else? I think that's all the issues I ran into. Again, extended studs for the back, especially if you're going to be running the thermal gasket. Got these from 1320 Racing. They sell a kit specifically for this setup. So yeah, you can use vice grips to remove the old studs. Just make sure you really tighten those vice grips down so that you're not gonna kind of strip. I mean, if you strip them, it's fine because you're gonna install new ones, but you don't want to break it off. So I found that it works best if you just pretend these are vice grips. You get your vice grips. Obviously, you clamp that on there, and you want to go as tight as you can. You don't want to force those vice grips closed too much, but you want it to be like very, very, very tight. And then you don't want to hesitate when you're turning. You're gonna clamp on, tighten the shit out of your vice grips, and then you're gonna do a smooth, consistent turn. Just don't do little tiny little turns. You're gonna want to just get a good angle all the way over, like to the far left, I guess, depending on how you're situated. You're going to want to clamp on there real good, and you're going to do a smooth sweeping motion with vice grips. That's how I was able to remove the old studs. And yeah, you'll probably strip them either way, but again, you're putting new ones in, so it's not really a big deal. What else? These studs do have a Allen hole. I found this out after I had already installed it, so I kind of screwed that up, but I made it work anyways. But if you guys are doing this and you want to make sure your studs are fully inserted, they do accept an Allen wrench for you to. You'll be able to stick your Allen key right in there, and that'll allow you to turn it until they bottom out fully. I was able to make it work, luckily, without doing that. Saw a video on that after and kind of thought, well, whoops, a little too late. But again, I managed to make it work. The manifold's seated on there real good. I have no leaks. Everything worked out good. But for future reference, for anyone doing this first time, good to know. And I think that's everything. I'll do another little pass around. Hopefully you guys need to see how everything's routed. This nipple on top has this hose that goes down to the charcoal canister as well. And that goes to the top nipple. See, earlier that goes to the bottom nipple. So that top one goes to the evap purge solenoid, bottom one goes to this one right here, right next to your map sensor. This charcoal canister, there's not a lot of images or videos of this, so you can see how you properly set it up. That main nipple on the left goes to this hard line along the firewall. And then again, this top nipple on the right, evap purge solenoid, right here. Bottom nipple goes to the throttle body. And then yeah. And then, oh, I just want to mention this. I bought this intake manifold used. It was being ran with the turbo setup. And I was having stalling issues when I fired the engine up, and the reason why is because I went ahead and used the aftermarket map sensor that the previous owner was running on their boost setup, and apparently those are designed to take air readings on a boosted application. So right now with this NA setup, I was actually having stalling issues with that map sensor, so I swapped that out to my stock map sensor and fired it up, and then the engine ran fine. Because these stock Denso map sensors are designed for, you know, low boost or NA, which is what I'm running. That was I actually spent like a whole day trying to figure out why my engine was stalling. I thought it could be my throttle position sensor. I was looking into adjusting the throttle body screw, which is right here. I was looking at the idle air control valve, all this other shit. Turns out it was just, again, I was using that aftermarket map sensor, which is designed for higher airflow, because obviously when you're boosted, you're getting a ton of air coming in through this throttle body. But right now, this is just naturally aspirated. So you're gonna wanna go ahead and run your stock map sensor if you're not gonna be boosted. And then just so you guys can see. That's that aftermarket map sensor that was on there before. So yeah, this was for a turbo setup, and I wasn't able to idle my car. It would crank over, it would turn on just fine. It would stay on if I tapped the gas a little, but as soon as I let the gas pedal go, this thing was just not able to idle on its own until I swapped it out to that. And then I just swapped that out. The engine ran fine after that. I was able to finally re-bleed my cooling system, because obviously when you take this manifold off, you're gonna lose a lot of coolant. And that's pretty much it.